Hey, welcome to our archive edition of Chad's Beer Podcast. This week is a one from a long time ago. I was talking to Chris Steltz of Beer Geek Nation. For those of you who don't remember, Beer Geek Nation was the BeerTuber back from 2010 to 2015 or so. Let me bring up his channel here. Yeah, he had these great graphics, animation, everything. He has 40,000 subs and let's see how many total views. Wow, 7.2, almost 7.3 million total views over 1,200 videos. Wow, he did a lot of videos. He didn't do any shorts. So they're all still there. I will say he had great actually I'm not a huge fan of just the text and the pictures like that, but the actual way that he did his videos I thought was really impressive. In fact, it's still the way that I do my show now is very inspired from the way that Chris did his show. It's not an exact one-for-one thing, but it's I tried so I started doing the voiceover. I would show the camera showing the the bottle or the can as a close-up, reading it, and then the pour, and he had that infinity board where he would pour the beer, and that inspired me. At first I had this kind of crappy tent one, then I eventually did get an infinity board, and I don't know if anybody out there remembers, but I did this parody of Chris called Beer Nerd Empire. Let me bring it up here. And I haven't posted this in a long time. So because Chris was always, especially in the early years, he was hiding behind all these bottles on his dining room table, and I was like, why don't I do the same thing except literally hide behind him, So I'm going to include that at the end of this podcast for those of you that haven't seen it in 10 years or however long it's been, or you never saw it at all. Despite what you might think, there was never any beef between me and Chris. He agreed to do my podcast, and he did a very memorable contribution to the roaster toast when I made partner back in 2010, I think it was. So anyway, Chris, if you're watching, we all miss you here on BeerTube. You had one of the best channels, very insightful. And we're shocked that he just kind of walked away from all that, because he never made as far as I know, he never made I'm leaving video, or maybe on his Twitter or Facebook or on his website or something he did. But by the way, I checked, his Facebook's gone, his website's gone, his Twitter's still there, but obviously I haven't posted it to it in a long time. So, all right. So with no further ado, here is a conversation between me and Chris from 2011, I think it was 2012, somewhere around there. All right. I'll see you next week. Hey, welcome to our episode of Interview with a Craft Beer Enthusiast. We got a very special interviewee today. This is Chris Steltz of Beer Geek Nation.
What's up, guys? Cheers.
How did you come up with that name, Beer Geek Nation?
Oh, Beer Geek Nation. Where did you come from? It was a matter of going on YouTube, seeing... I didn't realize people were doing beer reviews.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, it's kind of a passion. I started as a home brewer, kind of a passion. So I said, I've had a couple websites. I've done some DVD websites back in the late 90s, early 2000, some video game websites, and it just I know it kind of flows, kind of
Catchy.
with BGN and all that stuff. So that's really what it came out of. And I was I considered myself a beer geek, and I didn't think anyone was doing that. So I'm saying, I'll come up with something with beer geek, and kind of came out of there. That's.
Well, and for the viewers that don't know, is that Beer Geek Nation is not just you personally. It's
right.
It's your website. That's a conglomerate of 7 different beer reviewers from mostly America, but you have Peter in Denmark and Dennis in Montreal.
Right. It's beergeeknation.com, and it started out just me, and then I'm like, you know what? It'd be awesome, because I can't get everything, so it'd be awesome if I can kind of blanket the country, and it turned out to be, the world, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Ryan from San Diego, and Tantrum 77 for Jameson he's in Arizona.
Right.
Daniel in Michigan, and we've got Peter in Denmark, and so they're all over the place, and it's been cool because I get to talk to them. I see for me, it's not so much the beer as it is the social aspect. I love the beer, but I love having the social aspect of talking about the beer. Like talking with you right now. I've been trying to talk to you forever, Chad. You know that. But I mean, just having a conversation about beer to me is worth so much more than. I mean, look, the beer is great, but the reason we're talking now is because of the. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's a very social thing, and I wanted that. I want to kind of bring people into the quote nation, if that makes sense. Just to, it's a very, I don't know, robust kind of thing. So,
what would you say is not so much the goal, but just like your approach, like as far as what you're trying to accomplish and like who your target audience is?
When people email me and say, I saw your review on, such and such, and I went out and tried it and I really liked it. To me, that is the highest compliment I could ever get from anybody. Right. So for me, it's always, I just want to expel kind of my passion for beer and what I see in beer. And I think the level of review that, a beer deserves, I kind of try to portray that. And beer is a very visual and kind of visceral experience. What does it smell like? What's my reaction to the taste? And I think that's very important. And I think you get that too. I mean, it's a very visceral experience that is so much better on video than it is in text. And that's really what I want to convey. And I just want to teach people that it's out there and kind of share my enthusiasm for that. And hopefully they try it.
9 out of 10 beer reviewers who are American, I find, is they just drank Keystone Light in college, and then one day somebody gave them a Sam Adams, and then somebody gave them a Dogfish. What's your story?
That wasn't me at all. That was, long story short, I grew up in Philadelphia, Philly born and raised. I went to the Hicks for college outside of Harrisburg. And that's really where I got into the Natty Light, which is a key college beer. The Natty Light, it's like freshman and sophomore year. Then junior year, we moved on to Rolling Rock, while it was still a PA beer, I might add. Yeah. So, but then I was like, oh, Rolling Rock's great because it tastes like water and all this stuff. And really, up until about 7 years ago, about 4 or 5 years out of college, Trogs is literally in my backyard. And I went to Trogs, and I had a nugget nectar on one of the little sampling cups on a tour. I'm like, we'll go on a tour, it'll be cute. Go to Trogs, have a little nugget nectar sample in a cup. I'm like, why does this beer taste like grapefruit juice? It's delicious, and it tastes like grapefruit juice, and I want to know why. And they said, oh, that's the hops. And I'm like, whoa, hops can taste like grapefruits? Mm-hmm. And that was it. I mean, end of story. That was it. I started homebrewing. I just started reading, and books and books, and I have all these books here about beer, and there's just a wealth of knowledge. All it takes is that one little 2-ounce glass of beer to really kind of like trigger something like that. And that was it. Trogs Nugget Nectar, boom.
All right, so like 7 years ago, you have your craft beer epiphany, you start homebrewing. At what point did you say, hey, let's put myself out there on the internet, which was about a year ago, but it was like, what was the impetus of saying, I want to literally put my face out there? Because it does you have to be a little ballsy to put your face on YouTube, as we all know.
Ballsy is you have to be kind of crazy and narcissistic at the same time. It's an egotistical thing we do. Let's face it. But I think I can tell you exactly what happened. My wife found out she was pregnant, and I got a camera, a video camcorder.
Right.
And at that same time, what the hell was I looking up? I was looking up Pliny the Younger, because I heard about Pliny the Younger. I'm like, what the fuck is this Pliny the Younger? #1 beer in the world, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
So I went on YouTube, looked at Pliny the Younger, boom, Mark Starr pops up. Watched his review, I'm like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Then I started watching other reviews, Joe D, yourself, and I'm like, well, yeah, I'll do that. Maybe I can do some local stuff and see how it turns out. And then, like, you put the stuff up there and people start watching it, and it's like, oh okay. I don't know. For me, it started literally, like, even before Beer Geek Nation got started, was just for me, it was a diary. An easier way to catalog beer because, again, I didn't like text. I wanted to see the beer. So I mean that was it. It was a selfish kind of. It was to be a diary of what I was drinking, when I was drinking, and really the camera came from, well, my son. I would say being born, but at the time, but in vitro or
Right.
in utero, I should say. So
Did you take a crash course in editing, or, because like I remember, I don't know if it was one day or if it was over time, but you went from just one 10-minute clip to now you got effects and editing and how did you learn how to edit like that?
well, what happened when I realized people wanted to see this kind of stuff and people were watching this kind of stuff? It was a fluke. It wasn't I guess I shouldn't say a fluke, but I don't remember. I want to say it's. Oh, this is awful. Nicest guy in the world. He's on that. He does James from
Brewdog?
Better Beer Authority. Is it
Okay.
James? The
Oh,
James, right?
James Knott?
Yeah. He got a hold of me and he's like, you should really, just cut down your time so people can watch more and edit all this stuff. And then I started watching his stuff. I'm like, this can be done. It can be done a better way. And then I took read some stuff on Adobe After Effects, and that's where all that words and music and all that stuff came from. And it's slowly evolving. It's still not where I want to be. And I can't divulge what's going on, but in July-ish, there's going to be some big changes in the format of the show and everything. So I don't know.
Cool.
It's what I want to watch. I think that's kind of what I produce. I just wanted, it's overly produced, absolutely. It's real Michael Bay reviews, but I don't know how to describe it other than that. I mean, I don't know. It's something for me to do. It keeps me busy. I don't know.
All right, so let's get into the more kind of abstract kind of stuff now, philosophical. How do you personally rate or grade beer? What's your criteria? What's your rationale? What's going through your head when you're drinking a beer for the purpose of reviewing it?
Style. Number one is the style. How should it taste? How should it not taste? I think is a big one for me. That's number one. I really am an appearance guy. If a beer looks really nice, stylistically, how it should look, that's awesome. Aroma's a big one. Taste is definitely up there, but I think aroma, appearance, taste kind of go overall. But I'm a big style guy. I hate a beer that is hyped and sucks. I will bash that beer like just religiously because I hate hype machines. I really, really hate hype machines that don't live up to that beer. So I'm a big style guy, BJCP guide. I've studied it. I mean, I know it. I know what in theory, well, and I know we use that loosely, what it should taste like, what it shouldn't taste like. So hopefully.
But just to play devil's advocate here, aren't some of the best beers the ones that deviate from their styles?
Absolutely. But I'll play devil's advocate back. They take those styles and they add their own spin to them.
Right.
So I think that is so important right now in the craft beer community because it is so wide and so diverse. You need to take that traditional generic Scotch ale, put it in a Highland Park 12 Scotch barrel, and then sell it. I mean that's to me that's the essence of craft beer is really that spin. So.
Question. There's an objectiveness to beer, such as the ingredients used and how well of a job they did making it. But then there's a subjectiveness, such as every individual person's opinion of the beer.
Right.
Can opinions, or more specifically, reviews or critiques, ever be factual or objective? For example, if 1,000 certified BJCPs all rate a beer 100 out of 100 or A+, does it make it a fact that beer is indeed an outstanding beer? And if someone disagrees, does that mean their opinion is incorrect?
No, I think it's yes and no. those 1,000 BJCP guys can tell you how that beer is supposed to taste because they know the style, because they know the ingredients that went into it. If the beer doesn't taste that way to the individual, that's not what it is. I mean, and it's that's kind of how I review. I review coming from kind of that technical standpoint. This is how it should taste, but does it? Well, okay. What I think taste is completely subjective.
Right.
You're gonna like what you like. I can tell you a million times this is how it should taste. This is what I'm tasting. This is what they intended to taste. But if you don't like it, then you don't like it. I mean, I'm not going to change that. But yeah, I mean it is subjective. At the end of the day, it is subjective.
Right. How do you spread the gospel of craft beer? Like when you're, I don't know how. I mean, we've seen some of your friends on the show, so I'm assuming they have pretty good taste. But like, if you ran into your college friends who you were swilling the Natty Light with, and you said, like, that beer you're drinking right now said, taste this, and they were like, oh, this tastes like soy sauce.
Right.
You know, which we've all encountered, I'm sure. It's like, what's your, you know, like, how do you explain it to them? And, or in a different scenario, maybe this should just be a whole different question, is, you know, like, how do you warm people up? Do you say, hey, start with Sam Adams, and then, you know, this is expert level, you know, you need to jump on board?
Well, that's actually a really good question, because the one person that in my mind I know would appreciate beer, but he hasn't, well, he's getting there, but is my dad. My dad loves Corona Light with that lime in the bottle. So I'm like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We went to, you know, a restaurant. They had Trogs, literally 15 miles down the road from Trogs. They had Trogs Sunshine Pills, which just came out on tap. And I'm like, look, I'm going to get a glass of Sunshine Pills. You try it. He tried it. He's like, yeah, I really like that. I think you're not going to agree with me, so you can roll your eyes here, but Sam Adams Noble Pills is a fantastic hoppy Pilsner. I said, even Sam, because they're up in Boston, so even Sam Adams Noble Pills is better than Corona, you know.
Yeah.
So definitely try that. It's got that same clean. I have found that people who don't like craft beer like a clean, crisp. They don't want it to taste like beer.
Right.
Thanks to Budweiser and Natty Light and all these guys. So I think, and to segue into that question, that's kind of the way to do it, is to introduce kind of a hoppy beer through your Noble Pills or your Trogs. The Sunshine Pills are, what's the Southern Tier one, the Hop Sun?
Yeah, Hop Sun.
Yeah, I mean, even that's a fucking brilliant beer too. I mean, that's a real kind of gentle. Sorry, should I not curse?
I don't care.
All right, I thought you were writing down. Like, cut that out. All right. But even, I mean, this. So I think that's kind of there's better, quote, light beers than, you know, your Bud Light, your Corona Light with lime. Right. There's more flavorful beers, and people like those flavors. So it's even lambics. I mean,
yeah,
you can sell anybody pretty much a lambic.
Is reviewing beer arbitrary / masturbatory, or is there something substantial to what we do? Are we providing the world with a necessary, valuable service?
Oh, is that a good question or what? It's a little bit of both. I would say it's like 70% masturbatory. Like I said, because I started doing this as basically a journal for myself.
Right.
But at the same time, when somebody, and I said this before, but when somebody tells me that they tried a beer because I reviewed it and they really liked it, that means the world. So it's like, but does that feed back into the masturbatory stuff? So it's like, you know, it's kind of a. I like to think that. You know what? I would say I'm doing a service, because the big thing is, you get all these free beers, you're getting paid for all this stuff. 98% of the beers I buy and review, I pay for.
Yeah,
so
me too.
Really, yeah. I mean, if it's a bad beer, I'm going to tell you, like, a lot of the Dogfish Head real expensive stuff, I don't dig. Yeah. And it's expensive stuff. McKellar stuff, a lot of that stuff I don't dig. And, you know, that's a bite out of my pocket that, you know, you guys and whoever doesn't have to buy. So, I mean.
What's your favorite and least favorite styles of beer?
Least favorite style is the Hellesbach. Um, very, very light German lagers, Kolsch's, Hellesbachs. I just can't get into. I've had some really good ones, and the more I kind of try them, the more I like them. But they're the ones. If they're next to an IPA, I'll always try an IPA. You know what I mean? So it's kind of. I like real flavorful beers.
Right. So, what's like your favorite styles?
Oh,
Or do you
I'm sorry. Favorite style. I will never turn down a double IPA.
Hmm.
Bottom line.
Do you have any guilty pleasures? Would you drink a Miller Lite if nothing else was available?
Uh, no, I wouldn't. Sam Adams Boston Lager is my guilty pleasure. And it's not even that guilty. That's a great beer. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's a great fresh. That is a fantastic beer. I'm trying to think. That would probably be it. Yeah. If it's like a Coors Light or Keystone Light, I'll just have a soda or something. I mean, I don't complain about it. I just don't. I don't see a point in the calories or whatever, you know. So
Right.
it's like
What do you think the future holds for the craft beer scene? Do you think we'll ever have more than 10% of the market?
I don't know that the big guys will ever let it get more than probably 15% of the market. They're going to start buying up people like we saw with Goose Island and all those guys. And I think what's going to happen there is they're not going to consider that, quote, big beer. So they're going to have all these craft breweries, but they're going to be
Right.
owned by subsidiaries that are, multinational corporations. But anyway, I think the big thing for real craft beer, I think it's going to be more smaller sessionable beers, harking back to like British style, your ESB, real ESB session,
Right.
4% IPAs. I think that's where it's going next. I mean, that's
All right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up. You want to? What's your websites? Facebook, Twitter?
beergeeknation.com, facebook.com/beergeeknation, Twitter, beergeeknation, YouTube, beergeeknation, Chad's beer reviews with a Z.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks to Chris at Beer Geek Nation for doing this overly long interview.
It was a pleasure, sir. I've been
Yeah.
wanting to talk to you for a while. So
We'll have to Skype again in a few
Definitely.
months or something.
definitely.
All right. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
All right, guys. Cheers.
Bye. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Beer Nerd Empire. I'm your host, Chris. Is this distracting? Are you not able to see me behind all these bottles? I just wanted to show them all up, so. Alright, well, we'll put them away. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Beer Nerd Empire. I'm your host, Chris. I guess this is a better setup. I just want you to see my bottles, so you know what's upcoming and what we've done, so you know we're credible here at Beer Nerd Empire. Also my little beer library over there. So for tonight's review, we're doing the Southern Tier Imperial Pumpkin. It's coming out of Lakewood, New York. Doing a lot of great things up there and at Southern Tier. So let's get this into a glass, let you know how it smells, how it tastes, and I'll give you the final verdict on the Southern Tier Pumpkin. Alright, for the appearance on the Southern Tier Pumpkin, we've got an orange color, just like pumpkin, just like the label. Carbonation streaming from the bottom all the way to the top. You saw that nice thick head I got on there. It looks amazing. As for the aroma, oh yeah, it's liquid pumpkin pie, pumpkin pie crust. Just straight the fruit of the pumpkin, the breadiness of the pie. And there's a little bit of a nice grain beer smell in there too, to let you know that it's beer. Oh, I think I'm gonna have an orgasm smelling this thing. So for the taste on the Southern Tier Pumpkin. Oh yeah. Oh, it's amazing. It's delicious. Just like the smell, it is literally liquid pumpkin pie. A nice bitterness from the
like a graham cracker crust. They use a hops in there. The malts. Oh, it's just so good. Big malts up front. Every sip is just better than the one before it. It's just so good. You're getting the hops and the malts. 9% ABV, goes down like water. It's just so easy to drink. Getting fantastic lacing on there. That is absolutely beautiful. Southern Tier, one of my favorite breweries. Just do such a great job. And here's some pictures from their website that I don't have authorization to use, but I'll use them anyways. Now I know this isn't something we usually do on this show, but got the last piece of pumpkin pie here to go with the pumpkin. Let's just see how it pairs here. Oh yeah, it pairs so well. The bitterness from the beer, the sweetness from the pie, the creamy texture there. Everything is just so great. And it's just, every beer on this show is better than the one before it. So whatever beer I'm drinking is the best beer I've ever had in my life. And I really think that you guys should go out and get some too. The verdict on the Southern Tier Pumpkin. Obviously it's getting an A+. I'd probably give it an A++ if such a thing existed. Maybe I just made that up, but we only drink A to A+ beers here. Like an A- once in a blue moon maybe, but we only drink A's and A+ beers on this show. In fact, here's a little flashback to reel to prove it.
This beer gets an A+. I'm gonna give this one an A. I gotta give this one an A+. Getting an A in my book. I'm gonna give this one an A. I'm gonna give this one an A. Yeah, I gotta give this one an A. I'm gonna give this one an A. I'm giving this one an A+. I'm gonna give this one an A. This is my favorite beer.
Yeah, so this show, if beer was food, we would only drink the equivalent of lobster and prime rib. Not even your strip steak is good enough for this show. So, remember my friends, life is not long enough. Stick to stupendous beers.